2020 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for the town of Manchester. Thank you all for attending. We are a little bit earlier than our usual time of 7:30. However, we have a lot to get. It's good to see commission members here tonight. We have been meeting remotely over the past couple months, so it's again good to see you all healthy and here to take care of business. First item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the August 18th, 2020 minutes. They are in front of you. Thank you to Michelle for providing us this.
I'd like the August 18th minutes as written.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the August 18th minutes as written.
I will second that motion.
Seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Thank you. Michelle, what do you have for us?
We have the Patriots Overlook. Even though we did the recommendation, has not gone to mayor and council until October. I gave you the annexation plan as I have written it. I did have our attorney look it over, but I wanted to make sure that it says what we want it to say for going to the county. And then that will be submitted with the recommendation in October to the mayor and council.
Do you have a date on the public hearing for both?
It's the date of,
Lippy and Patriots Overlook?
Lippy is the only one scheduled right
Okay.
now, and that is the meeting night of the council in October. So I think it's, let me see, 13th or something? Second Tuesday?
Okay, second Tuesday, thank you.
Then, just something to keep in our thoughts, we will need to amend the master water sewer master plan, should either of these annexations go through, because they are not in our water sewer service in that plan. So that'll be something else we'll have to work on. And then Steve and I had met with Linda from CLSI, and she mentioned that someone has purchased the Cook property off of Jamer Drive, which actually has a road extension coming in off of Southwestern. And I thought Bob Ward was gonna do all that, but, so they're considering an application also.
Could you, is anybody else on the board familiar with that property, or is that locale? I am not.
Okay, when you go down Charmel, you'll turn left on Susan Ann, and where they put the new Starlight Court in that we did, right past that is a private drive that goes down.
That's the property that's in the middle.
It's down in it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Manchester Farms is kind of all around it, and it's
Okay,
down.
now I know what you're talking about. Thank
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, say that again, that's been purchased?
Some developer has purchased it, and Linda made it sound like they were maybe interested in applying for an annexation.
Didn't we have citizens from in that area concerned about the development of that court?
Starlight Court,
The
yes.
Starlight Court?
Yes.
Didn't we have citizens back there come in and testify about that?
Yes, there's 2 homes back there, Mr. Chamberlain and Garland, I think it is. And then there was Mr. Cook, who passed away, and he has a couple acreage, a bunch down in there.
Okay,
There was a dispute about the common drive on the one side.
thank you. I
Yep.
thought so. Okay, thank you. Now I know where we are. Thank you.
Okay, then, I want to jump ahead to Price, because they do not meet in person and they're only virtual. He sent his report in writing. I don't know if I need to read it for the record or just put it in the record, but the comprehensive rezoning is still going on. And I did watch some of that today. Oh, that was the other thing. I did watch the Lippy presentation to the Carroll County Planning and Zoning today. And they did recommend for sending it to the commissioners. They recommended it for annexation with a waiver because we had conservation going to R20. And so that will be on the commissioners' agenda. I think it's in 2 weeks.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear on that. So the County Planning and Zoning Commission approved the...
Recommended,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Recommended to the commissioners to allow the annexation of the Lippy property to the town of Manchester with a waiver
On zoning,
taking it from conservation to R20.
right, because anytime you go more than 50% in the zoning, you have to have a waiver, you can't build for 5 years. So if we are going from conservation, which is 1 per 3 acre lots, to R20, which is 4 on an acre lot, so that it doubled or tripled in.
So does the town have any consideration in going to the commissioners meeting when that comes up to a vote, or to say, yes, we agree, no, we don't agree with the waiver? Because I think there's a lot of stuff, I mean, while this commission recommended no to the council has yet to hear from the citizens and vote.
Right.
There is an issue whether or not the commissioners go along with the recommendation from the planning and zoning, correct?
The county commissioners? I mean, the county planning and zoning?
Yes.
Well, they came to us, and Steve and I were a little confused with it, because they wanted us to request a waiver. We said, why would we request it? Because we don't care, we had it going down conservation to conservation, but when their application actually came through, it said conservation to R20, and we didn't really catch that, and we didn't catch that in the annexation plan either. That's why I really wanted to look at this one that's going out now.
So if the commissioners vote to agree to allow Manchester, the town council, to move forward if they choose to do so with the annexation, how does the waiver affect this body? I see, because I think, were we in agreement on R20? I can't remember.
Right, so
I got too much in my mind, I can't remember exactly.
Normally, there needs to be a consistency between the mapping of a property that's outside with a property that's inside the annexation limits. Otherwise, you have a moratorium on how long
Right.
3 or 5 years, I forgot the time period, that you can't develop until it's been in the town. So it's a consistency issue that was on the maps.
Okay,
Right.
so help me understand that if they grant the waiver. They can develop immediately if the annexation is approved. Okay.
If the annexation is approved by mayor and council.
Correct,
Right.
that's what I wanted to hear, okay.
Mhm.
All right, thank you all very much, I just wanted to keep that in mind. I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't mean to throw you off course. but
That's
I
okay.
just had to get that clear.
I forgot to bring up the speed on that anyway, so, yeah. But I think that's all I have. Prices stuff, but comprehensive rezoning is what brought that to my mind. The spring amendment to the Carroll County Master Plan just was finally approved. I think we had originally talked about possibly trying to go and do the fall amendment on the water and sewer master plan, but it makes more sense to just wait totally until see if these properties even get annexed, and then there's a spring amendment we can work on, instead of putting them in and putting them out. So, we're not gonna be doing the fall one, and I think that was basically the most he had in there. So, I am finished, unless you have more questions.
So just to make sure I'm clear for the record, in the October town council meeting, they will go into public session to take comment on the Libby project. Correct.
It'll go into a public hearing.
Got it. Thank you.
And this will be the venue right now. We've asked for the public, if they plan on attending, to let us know if we have to move to a larger venue. Staff is going to work it in a way. We'll bring the public in, they will have a chance to speak, and we will send them out that door. So we're going to rotate the people through to limit our number of people in this room. So,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, check your mic. I received a text that they can't hear you.
How about now?
There you go.
I
Very
thought I had a big enough mouth to hear me in Hampstead. Let me just, I just want to check a date here real quick.
And if any commission members would like to attend that public hearing, please let us know, because of course we are limited to space, and we limit our.
I'm assuming that's the 13th of October.
Yeah, it's second Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct.
Someone from the commission will be here. So we will plan on having a representative from the commission, whether it's myself or the vice chair, we will be here for that meeting. Thank you. Steve, you have anything for the town?
Two quick things that you'll probably find interesting. First of all, our Whispering Valley Stormwater Management Facility retrofit, that is complete. So we are awaiting the property transfer from the county to the town on that, so that is finished. Also, real quick, last month you received a virtual visit from Mr. Collender in regards to the electronic sign at Manchester Valley High School. I was involved in a meeting, also our attorney, also the Board of Education attorney, and the facilities folks at the Board of Education. We had a very good discussion about the sign location, and right now they're putting a package together to pass on to Mr. Collender and the advisory council to think about moving the sign to another location on Board of Education property, which would make it easier for everyone involved, especially getting electric to the sign, which is very expensive. So that's where we're at on that. So.
Very good. Thank you. Do I have anything for the council?
I'll just add that last week we met, it was a regular business meeting, so there was nothing unusual really to report this evening. Mr. Stencil, who is here this evening, addressed the mayor and council to express his concern with the commission's recommendation to the mayor and council. There was no real detailed discussion by mayor and council regarding the annexations, but it's recognized we have two very important decisions to make, so there's no discussion outside of that. I believe it'd be very beneficial for the mayor and council and planning and zoning commission to get together, have a work session, so that the mayor and council can really make sure they understand all the benefits and detriments to those decisions.
So, Stephen, Michelle, I have to agree with Commissioner Wilder that we need to sit down as a group, and really just providing something as writing is nice, and I think it portrays a lot of good issues, but I think the nuances of certain things we've discussed in other open work sessions. So how do we go about scheduling that type of work session with the mayor and council to talk about these two properties prior to public hearings? Even though the Patriots Overlook has not been scheduled for public hearing, I think it's important. I agree. I think we do need a work session.
Would it have to be before a public hearing? It just needs to take place before this gets into discussion for a vote.
Yes. What I can do is I can first reach out to our town attorney to see if, everything's on the level and we can do that and we can set up a work session. Once I get that cleared, my next phone call would be to the mayor and ask the mayor to reach out to the council for some available dates if they're available. Then I'll reach out to this group and we'll work it out.
I would be really appreciative if you would do that.
I just want to make sure that, like, we didn't go too far, and now we're going to meet to discuss this, even though written transaction has been passed back and forth between the mayor and council and the commission. So, yeah, we'll do that. That's no problem.
I think it's important that they hear the commission's feelings,
Correct.
Yay or nay, no matter how each commission member voted on the scenarios, because they do impact the town.
That's correct.
So, great, I would really appreciate that.
I would on that first thing in the morning, get that moving, because it's time sensitive. So,
Thank you both, appreciate that.
That's it for me.
Thank you very much. Okay. So with Price not being able to be here and Michelle entering his report into the record as written in front of you, I'd like to move on to the 2019 annual report certification.
Okay, this is the annual report that we do every year, and it's where I have to report to the county any annexations we've had, ordinance changes, approvals, preliminary concept. So I gave you a copy of what I had submitted, and then I think I electronically sent you their master, and where you would have to look for all of our information throughout it all. So I just sent you exactly what was submitted for Manchester, and then we can go, if you feel I've got it all covered from 2019, which seems like a long time ago now, then we just certify that it's good to go, and you'll have a letter to sign tonight. Alex.
Almost makes it look like we didn't do anything all through the past
Well, they
year.
specifically asked for approvals, and that many
Right.
at a time.
The commission has had a chance to review the annual report. I will take a motion to accept or deny the annual report as written.
I make a motion that the annual report be accepted as submitted.
Okay, motion on the floor to accept the annual report as written and submitted.
I second.
Second has been made. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Unanimously accepted. Okay, thank you. All right. That takes us through number 3, Equine Meadows. Mr. DeMario, how are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Can't complain. Glad to see everybody's here. What do you have for us tonight?
So we're here today to request preliminary plan approval. And what I'd like to do is show you what we've done since the concept and some of the comments that we've been working through with the various agencies. Give me a moment,
I would just like to know, are there still any outstanding comments that you're still working on?
Yes, sir, there are, and I'll kind of go over what those issues are. Other than stormwater management, they're very minor, and there's a lot, just the normal minutia of making sure we have the notes right. And stormwater is always a challenge, but I have a little bit more to show you on where we are there.
Okay.
It's hard to read sometimes sometimes I think I'm far away, and then boom, he's good with it, and so.
One thing, I did give you a copy of the stormwater ones, just because that seems to be.
Yep.
So, I'll just go over some of the more significant, changes since the inlet, or the concept. So we added, along this strip right here, we've done a little bit of work in the back here. We've added another inlet at the top of the hill, to help with, some of the backyard issues. So, that was part of our grading review. The other thing that grading had us do is we worked on making sure the layouts along the walkout basements here made sense and could be graded to achieve a nice, smooth discharge of water. The biggest issue, of course, is that we lose grade on this plan from right to left. So we want to have a relatively level backyard as we go back, but I also at the same time need to step down. So there was a little bit of grading changes that were required from that. We've also, actually I can do,
Thank you.
so that's the grading, that's the inlet that we added, and we moved that one from here up. And we changed how the contouring occurs in between the lots with the spots. The other place that we changed for grading was along the edge of Dressage Road, which is, this is Park Avenue on the left side. This is the area where we've widened the road so that it could accept some parallel cars parked along the edge. We actually have 7 spaces along here. This is the area down here at this corner where we would have the mailbox kiosk. Based on the final boundary survey, we actually gained a little bit of real estate in here. So this was really tight before, and I think the concept plan, I was actually showing you a 2-foot-high retaining wall. We've been able to eliminate that, so I think that's going to be a little bit nicer. Some of the landscaping that belongs to our neighbor falls into this area, and you can see we're not grading that. So those bushes and trees there will hopefully remain, and just, they won't be his, they'll be ours, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to go back up to, so overall, in development review, they were more concerned about some of the issues that we have on plats, specifically with where the storm drains cross into private property. So There's a corner up here on High Street where we have a water quality feature, we have an inlet, and then the storm drain pipe cuts catty corner. So that lot will be influenced by that storm drain there. That's one of the development review comments that we've worked off. One of the other comments that development review has is there's a sidewalk along Park Avenue, and they wanted to understand who was going to have ownership of that sidewalk for maintenance. That sidewalk is shown inside of the parcel that will be dedicated to the town as part of the true road width for Park Avenue. On the other side of the parcel along here, of course, will be the landscaping that will screen the stormwater management pond. But development review was very concerned about the sidewalk here, and they also questioned why we weren't doing a sidewalk on High Street, but we've been over that with High Street isn't conducive to a sidewalk leading down into the town. In the town's Department of Public Works review, we changed how we were configuring the water valves. So we'll have a fewer number of valves, but we'll still be able to isolate the system. So on High Street, we'll have a connection to the existing water line. On Dressage Road, we'll have a connection to the existing water line. And then at the end of Mustang Court, we'll be bringing a water line across and connecting that to Park Avenue. So we'll have isolation valves on all three pieces. So we'll be able to turn off the entire subdivision and at the same time maintain flow into for the remaining areas of the town. The county Department of Public Works had a few comments that we're working through. One, they were worried about or concerned about the use of the AASHTO guidelines for low-volume roads, and they understand what we're trying to do. So there was a number of questions on site distance and how that was going to work out. So the change in there is that we'll have an easement on this particular property here so that as cars that are coming down Dressage will still be able to see across the inside. So that'll keep it over about 195 feet of required site distance, and that'll give a car moving in that direction plenty of site distance.
Can you zoom in on that open piece on the corner, please? Is that possible?
I believe
Yes,
it is.
thank you.
Whoop, wait. Hang on a second, I need to escape. Sorry.
I know Adobe's not being cooperative. So the owner of that lot will have a piece of property from the edge of that, from what would be the west side of the house to the road that will have to remain clear.
That's correct. I show here the proposed site distance easement. It's right along here. So they would still be able to put a fence in their backyard and utilize this area like everybody else in the subdivision. But along the front in this area here, they would be restricted from having bushes that are 5 feet tall and doing anything that would obscure clear line of sight.
Is that easement going across our driveway?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
So isn't that usually written in their initial ownership contract or the HOA rules?
It'll be on their plat.
It'll be on their plat.
Plat, okay.
Right, so when they buy the property, they'll sign the plat, and the plat will show that they'll have that restriction on their property.
Thank you.
Is that site distance thing going across their driveway?
No, it's not. We tied it, well, okay, so for our ease of math, we tied it off earlier than the driveway, but it does not, they can park their cars there because that's actually how we ran it, was the cars parked there. I'll prove that to you so that you can see that clearly.
Then I have one other question for you. Did you say there is not a valve at dressage in Mustang?
No,
So
there's a,
something-
there, let me see if I can scoot over.
Don't you think they put one up there because if somebody on dressage needs water shut off, have to shut off the whole?
Well, right,
You have the water main coming in off of Park Avenue at two different locations. So you could isolate that one area off.
But you'd have to do it at Mustang and dressage, right? And he didn't put a valve there.
We do not have that now. I know that we went over this,
With Rodney.
with Rodney, and we came up with a scenario. I can revisit that with him before we get to final to make sure that we've not misunderstood what he was looking for. The county Department of Public Works also asked us to clarify some of the road geometry, especially on the cul-de-sac, and, sorry, back out to the, so in the area of the cul-de-sac, the geometry that we show here is just a little bit different than what you saw in the concept. We've always matched the Carroll County plate, but because of the sidewalk and the grading around there, I think they're a little more comfortable with how we've made some adjustments. The other thing that the County Department of Public Works asked us to do was to extend the curb line on the entrance to High Street. So before we were coming out to just the radius and we were stopping there, and now we extend the curb line 25 feet on either side of the entrance. So that moves me over to stormwater management review. We've gone through a number of iterations with the county staff. Right, we have gotten big chunks of it approved. So right now we have 17 of the 30 lots are approved for dry wells, so that they'll have basically their on-site stormwater management. The big change from the concept of that is that we're going to construct those dry wells concurrent with the construction of the roads. And what'll happen is we get to a point where the dry wells are complete, the pipes are stubbed into them, and then we'll put filter cloth and basically cocoon them until the houses are constructed. Once the house is constructed, then the downspouts will be connected up to the dry wells at that point. I'm sorry.
So where are you planning on locating the dry wells?
So, I don't know that I have a plan with the dry wells on here. I can open up my sheet and show them to you, but basically they're all along the back property line, 10 feet away from the property line on 17 of the lots. The subdivision's been laid out for the largest unit that Bob Ward sells, so those dry wells have been sized for that. So what's going to happen is we're going to put in the largest dry wells to match that, and if someone comes in with a smaller house, we just have extra dry well space. But that's an okay thing for us. It'll be easier for us construction-wise to do it with the big equipment rather than once we get, 12 feet between houses and such.
And you'll size them as far as, you've already sized them for the largest structure, but elevation-wise, you need to make sure that they're set for the smallest structure.
Correct.
So you have the longest run of pipe.
Yes, we've established the first floor elevation for every unit. Irregardless of what unit they pick, the first floor elevation will be as shown on the plan, within a couple of,
Right, but if you have a house that's narrower front to back,
right.
your run's gonna be longer on the one house, making your invert lower.
So we will be able to, I'll look into that to make sure we have at least a 2% fall from all of those units.
And we have adequate clearance between each one of the dry wells, if you're gonna be stacking them all in the back corner.
Is that right, Lauren?
No, that one's off. So you'll have adequate clearance between
Right.
them.
I understand what you're saying. We'll make sure those happen. So one of the other things that we've done was we widened High Street, and our stormwater concept plan has been adjusted now so that the widening on High Street is now going to be treated on site. We weren't counting that before, but now we've included that into our stormwater computations. We've had a lot of push for the use of grass swales and bioretention facilities, so I'm gonna flip down to near the end of my document here. So, let me start here. This is an outline of the existing drainage area. So we have the majority of drainage area A comes from a little bit of off-site and then on-site and then across Park Avenue. But then you can see how we've cut this up into the individual storm drain inlets. And this was the plan that you saw with the original concept. And basically, all of the storm drains that were in the interior there, we were pulling to the stormwater management facility and treating in the facility. So since you've seen the concept, we've added a number of grass swales, and the areas that are shown in green are now being treated by a bioretention swale or a grass swale. And one of the things that I'm still working on with Mr. Covington is which of these swales will actually be grass swales, and some of them will be bioretention swales. For certain, the one along Park Avenue here will be a bioretention swale. Possibly the one along the edge of St. Bartholomew's will be, but all of the other interior ones and the ones along High Street will most likely be grass swales. I did want to make a mention that one of the reasons we're not as far advanced on the stormwater as we had hoped was that our May submission was misdirected. Long story short, we weren't made aware of that until August, so, we lost about 4 months in there of review time. And the county staff has apologized to us and commented that they would help us expedite a review so we can get through this. And the last thing I wanted to comment on is the stormwater management facility in the center here. Because we've been so aggressive and been pushed by the county to use so many grass swales in the entire site, we're actually could shrink that facility by quite a bit, and there's even a possibility that the management of the 10-year will be achieved strictly by the grass swales. So we haven't come to an agreement on that with the county. There will be some type of facility in that shape. It just may not be required for management of the 10-year, because the 10-year would be controlled by the swales on the perimeter. So that's one of the details that is probably the hardest detail that I have left to work through. But from a concept or a preliminary plan approval, the only thing that can happen for this now is that facility would not need to be as large as it is, but essentially we're going to keep it in that relatively in that same form. We may have to adjust some of the contours for grass swale along the bottom there, but essentially it'll be the same shape. With that, that's all of the significant changes since the last time we presented, and I hope if you have any questions, I can address them. I did not, but I think.
Because we're gonna have to look into that. Okay, addresses and Mustang. Okay, so we have 3 points of entry that the water enters the development, 2 off of Park and 1 off the top.
Correct.
So isolate off Mustang, you had a break on Josiah, so we're looking at.
I do have the plans here, I can take
No,
that. Okay.
We'll look at that. Where you guys at, Robbie?
I will definitely make sure that we have it.
That's not a problem. That's not a problem.
So why no sidewalk along High Street?
Well, the number one reason is, as you move down High Street, the alley narrows significantly. So if we were to put a sidewalk, even in the future, you wouldn't be able to extend the sidewalk on this side more than just a couple of feet beyond our property line. So it really would always be a sidewalk that would be to nowhere.
I would disagree with you. I mean, I think with the residential development along that area, citizens would want to walk through that. Now, I understand when you make the left coming down the lane instead on High Street to go down to Main Street, which people often cut through. I understand what you mean. There's no sidewalk relevant there, and I agree with you.
Right.
I think it's a tough sell, but still, on the back side of your development, I think a sidewalk is warranted. Because you now also have an entrance and exit, as we've asked for, into your development. So what does it hurt to put a sidewalk from the end, from the four-way intersection all the way up to the end, because you're basically leading into the backside of St. Bartholomew's old church?
Correct. So on going towards the town, the road is as narrow as 14 feet in some spots, which is, once we get in here, we're just too tight to do anything. Could we put a sidewalk coming the other direction? What we've actually done right now is
Well, didn't you ask for a waiver not to widen the road with the county?
we did ask for a waiver, and we eventually just went ahead and did it because they sometimes it's easier just to go along with an agency, but
Well, I think we can be gentlemen and say that it's in the town's purview to the waiver or not, correct?
correct.
Okay, so with that being said, again, my question to you as part of the as part of the development team, doesn't that benefit our citizens and the citizens of that development to have a sidewalk on the backside for them to use as they go out and take walks? Some of them, if they decide to become members of St. Bartholomew's Church, can come out and walk up to the church in a safe fashion, because we both know that back side is going to be a entrance and exit for citizens of that development as they come up to as they come into their house to avoid Main Street, which is another point I'm going to talk to you about in a minute. So I think it would be in our best interest if you looked into the proper widening of the road with a sidewalk in there on the development side of the street.
Okay, so would we be allowed to have, well, okay.
I think you should look at, I would like you to
Yeah,
look into that,
we'd
please.
definitely look into it.
Thank you.
We're proposing to make it 18 feet wide. So right now, in some parts, it's as little as 14 and a half.
And I have no qualm with you in this process on the other side of Maiden Lane. You are correct, and I agree with you. But on the development side of High Street to the back of the development, I think a sidewalk is only beneficial to the community in general for people to want to walk. The whole community, everybody, even on.
Say I lived on New Street,
Mhm.
and I wanted to walk to the pharmacy. So I walk down New Street, I get on, Fourth Avenue, I get on the sidewalk, I can go all the way down to the pharmacy and be good to go.
Right, I do agree with you. One of the considerations I need to add to this is that High Street right now doesn't have any stormwater management. It drains into our site. We were capturing that with an open curb or a no curb situation, just draining into the swales. So I'm going to need to come up with a plan that allows the water to possibly sheet flow across the sidewalk and into the swale to at least keep the same concept. Otherwise, I've got to I got to do a lot to High Street to make water concentrate to an inlet or curb opening inlet that I'll be able to treat it the same. All things that we could look into.
I don't, that I couldn't tell you. I mean, I'm relying,
Because I think, aren't those all the houses that we were like super tight?
Yeah,
Didn't
these,
need variances, but we were super tight on setback.
these are tight. I mean, the sidewalk is 4 feet. I think we have that much slack in there, to be honest, that we could add a 4-foot line of sidewalk and still meet the 10,000 square feet per lot.
All of them forward, right?
Correct.
Moved all the houses forward.
Correct. Like lot number 7 here, you could see, I think I have, I don't have the square footage on there, but I'm like at 100 extra square feet. So as long as I can squeeze a 4-foot sidewalk in the edge here, we won't need to change any of the lot lines. And I think we can do that. No, the sidewalks are, if you look at the standard detail, it's curb line, 2 feet, sidewalk, and then usually about a foot or two, and then it's the property line. But the ordinance is that even though it's on town right away, the homeowner is responsible for maintaining it. Which is why we got into the question of who maintains the sidewalk on this side over here, because this is adjacent to the stormwater management facility. Other sidewalks are all in front of someone's house.
Well, you'll recall that I wanted fronts going out to High Street. So I want a sidewalk there as well. I wanted houses fronting that direction, so.
Okay. So I know I'm asking for preliminary plan approval, and it sounds like there's a little bit of question on the sidewalk. Can I still ask for preliminary plan approval with a condition that I work with Michelle and the town staff to solve how we're going to get a sidewalk in there and still keep all the other features? I think we can do it.
so where are we with traffic? Because I'll give you a little story.
Sure.
And I know you and I being of the same area growing up, so I went down to get some Mrs. Miller's macaroni salad for dinner to go with my hamburgers the other night. And I got down to the corner of Westminster Street and at the Y, and I waited. So where are we with 30 lots and 120 and cars, 60 cars that go with it? Where are we with the traffic survey? Have you done any, or do
We
you have an
have not.
idea of where we are? Because here's where we are, and this is reality. It's becoming more and more, and as we said in other meetings with other issues, that we are just pounding Park Avenue and Old Fort Schoolhouse, and I think this commission is well aware of what we have on our plate. So where are we with this development's traffic, and how is it going to affect the flow? Because the problem is, as in tonight, when I came to this meeting, I waited through 2 lights before I got to go through. Thank goodness my wife is well aware of what my responsibilities are and got me out the door early. So, with that being said, where are we with traffic?
So we have not done a traffic impact study. The requirements from the state highway is if you're going to have less than 50 trips per critical hour, it's not required. We have 30 lots, which essentially comes out to be about 1 vehicle per lot for the critical hour. So we add 30 cars during that peak hour below the threshold to consider for the traffic impact study. And as we presented to the town staff a year ago, I don't know how long exactly, but the likelihood of what the traffic impact study is going to say is that we have a failing intersection at Route 30 in York and Westminster Street, and we have a failing intersection at 27 and 30. And there's not a lot we can do about that, because if we could improve those intersections, then it improves the rest of the grid within, on either side of the town. Oh, it's not a requirement we don't meet the threshold that we have to have a study, and we argued that a study would not really be it wouldn't tell you anything you don't already know.
I appreciate your honesty, Mr. Mario. I can appreciate that. I really can, and I respect that, so thank you. I appreciate it. Does anybody else on the commission have questions for Mr. DeMario?
The only traffic thing that I had brought up is, the signage where it says, do not block intersections or do not block driveways. It was asked the developer that they would put those signs up to at least 3:30. I happen to live on at Main Lane. So, as things queue up, do they, you know, do they add signage, or is that a town thing, where the town should add signage that says, you know, do not block intersections type thing? And the same thing going out the other way. You're gonna have them queued in, coming in, trying to turn left into there, and it's gonna block people trying to make the Y, eventually, at some point. That's the only thought I had, as far as when it gets busy, it's gonna be queued through there, it's gonna block the pharmacy, Tom's entrance is gonna be unbelievable.
Yeah, point taken.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. You were talking about the issues with stormwater management. So what you're saying is right now the county's concern is whether we're going to have grass or bioretention swales within the interior of the community, and then whether you're going to manage 10-year storm in that larger facility or whether you're not going to need to manage 10-year.
That's correct.
Is that correct? I just
That's
want to make
correct.
sure.
Yes.
Anybody else from the commission, any questions for Mr. DeMario?
Was there landscaping on High Street, on the rear, where we're talking about the sidewalk, was there also additional landscaping, or were you planning on it?
Yes,
Some of the terms you're using, I'm not familiar with, but the grass, is it gonna be flat with High Street, and that's gonna be their yard, or is it gonna go down?
so looking from High Street, let me see if I can scoot this over a little bit. The first two houses on the left here, that's, High Street is actually their front yards. So there wouldn't be, there would be the driveway, one street tree type of thing. But then the other units, this is the backyard, and you can see along the parcel B, that's where we're putting in the grass swale, and then the house drops down about 7-8 feet. So there would be if it's a bioretention facility, there's like wetland type plants that are about anywhere from 2 to 3 feet tall typically in there. If it's a grass swale, obviously it would be mowed, and then there would be a berm along the edge to create the swale. We are not currently planting along that berm, but we could add that.
And a grass swale, for clarification, is a up and down.
So it's like, if you're walking,
Yeah, I'm on.
You are on,
Yeah,
because they
I don't
can't
think
hear
it
you.
works.
Is the button's up, right? The red button.
Button down.
Put it up. Up.
Yeah,
Up. There you go, buddy.
okay, that might be better. It does say that, it does say that. Okay.
You want my glasses?
Didn't need them. So, okay.
so to describe a grass swale, it's the edge of a lawn that would go down and then come back up, and it's where your water would pool. Probably the easiest place to picture that is between houses. You have water run to the center property line, and it would pool there, and then the whole thing would be tilted toward the street, so it would all go away from both houses in basically a stream of water. So the grass swale that we're showing on High Street captures the flow coming off of the impervious areas above that, cascades over the edge of the bank, and then gathers in the grass swale, or well, these are all grass swales, but sometimes the swales are bioswales, and then it flows toward the inlets. Once it's in the inlets, it drops into the pipe and is carried down to the main facility. But we have some real specific criteria for the swales. We don't want them to be greater than 4%, because we don't want the water to run through them too quickly, because then it doesn't get any of the water quality benefits. We want it to have a shape that the water basically stays real thin and just an inch or two high as it comes through.
What's the, now that you say that, I'm thinking of the property. What's the depth that the house at the corner of Maiden and High, I guess, how does the land elevate coming west on High Street?
This one?
Yeah, how deep is that into I know it goes down. How deep is that house into the ground?
So these
I don't know if that's the right way to say it or
2-foot
not,
contours, and then the dash ones are 1-foot contours. So this house here is actually about 2 to 3 feet lower than the edge of the swale. So overall, it's probably about 3 to 4 feet lower than the High Street. But of course, as you come around here, it's basically on grade with Mustang Court.
Okay.
Now,
What's the lot on the other side of Mustang? 11, thank you. 11's right there at the corner, isn't it?
yes.
So what's that depth? Is that,
So
Is that 10?
actually 11 is higher
Yeah,
than
it's a little-
High Street.
Really?
It actually flows across.
okay.
So this is one of I didn't describe it today, but this is a grass swale along here that actually discharges out to High Street. And we spent some time looking at how much water is being discharged there, and it's actually less than what is occurring today. So we're not adding water to High Street when we do this.
And then as you come towards the back of St. Bartholomew's, we're at grade, is that what?
So as we come closer to St. Bartholomew's, these first 4 units are still facing to the interior, and by the time I get to lot 7, I'm at 2, 4, 6, about 8 feet lower than High Street. And then the last 2 lots, I actually turn around and they face High Street, so they're about 1.5 feet lower than where the driveway comes off. So we actually have a driveway that comes off, goes down, and then comes back up just before it hits the garage. So it has a little saddle, a little swale through the two driveways for these 2 units. These again would have walkout basements. So that's when you come to the other side, you have all the grade is taken up through the basement. Whereas like lot 7, it's definitely not a walkout basement.
And that's a cuttable contour, or it's gonna be have to be some type of ivy or something growing on it too?
No, it's a mowable contour. They're set at a 3-to-1 cross slope, so you can mow a 3-to-1 cross slope. You might feel a little, slide to it, but it's until you get to like a 2-to-1. 2-to-1's about where you're weed whacking it. But a 3-to-1, you're still okay to mow.
Well, I think even a better reason for a sidewalk since you have 2 driveways coming out.
Okay.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. Anybody else? I think we've,
The only question I have, I guess, is for Steve and Michelle, if there's any major outstanding issues from the town's perspective, other than the issues we've discussed tonight.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, Mr. DeMario, will take care of the public
specific for the landscaping as well. I think that's what triggered that discussion.
If they would be the town's responsibility to maintain those.
Yes, these, most of those swales are actually not on individual lots. They're actually on parcels that would be dedicated to the town.
That's another consideration we have to look into. And that's why we were leaning towards, the possibility of an HOA application.
Correct.
Yeah, the only problem I see with the HOA is we know what their history of maintenance on facilities is. It's not good, and then you're gonna get failures, so, no.
On?
All right. We got some interference coming in from somewhere.
Want to try it again, Michelle? Try it again?
Now it's on.
Okay.
Uh,
Me? You think? No.
all right.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
All right, so is there any other questions, comments, or concerns on, Mr. Mayor? Thank you for an honest and open presentation, appreciate that.
You're welcome, Mr. Chairman.
So at this point, if there's no other questions, is there any discussion that we want to have amongst the commission? Okay, with none being said, Michelle, can we find out if there's any comments, questions, input, email? There was none? Thank you, Steve. Okay. So for the commission, there is no public input into Mr. DeMario's presentation. So at this point, I will take a motion to either approve for a preliminary approval motion for Equine Meadows, or a denial of a preliminary approval from the members of the commission.
Well, I will make a motion that we grant approval for a preliminary plan on Equine Meadows. Obviously, we still got the issue of the sidewalk to deal with, but that can be addressed at final, so.
Okay, a motion has been put forward to give preliminary approval to Equine Meadows. We have a second for preliminary approval for Equine Meadows. Is there any more discussion that needs to take place?
Did you want to put in your motion about the other items that you wanted discussed?
So Henry, that's on you because you made the original motion.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Well, I'll amend my motion to, for preliminary plan approval on Equine Meadows, subject to meeting to the town's satisfaction, issues brought up at tonight's meeting, specifically in regards to sidewalk along High Street and maintenance of stormwater management facilities. I'll amend it again to include the water valves. That I just assume would be addressed at final with Rodney, but we'll amend the motion to include that as well.
I second the amended motion.
Okay, so a motion has been put forward to give preliminary approval to Equine Meadows with consideration to sidewalks, maintenance of stormwater management, and water valves. It has been seconded. Is there any discussion? I do have one question now that so if for whatever reason, and if I'm incorrect, please correct me. The stormwater management area, if it does not need to be as large based on the grading and other items you presented, what happens to that open property?
So two things, we're gonna use it to some extent for either grass swales from the outfalls, or we can, increase the size of a lot on the adjacent lot. So basically, that area would become part of lot 30, or I think it's 21 on the outside. We would come back with an adjusted lot.
Okay, so no extra lot, just an adjusted lot size for what you present tonight?
That's correct.
Okay. Does that in any way, okay, okay, very
That's
good.
fine.
All right, so a motion's on the floor to approve Equine Meadows for preliminary approval, subject to sidewalk issues, maintenance of stormwater management, and water valve issues. Motion has been made and seconded. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I'm going to say nay for one vote no. So that carries 4 to 1. It is approved. Okay, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Appreciate your time tonight. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys, thank you so much. Good to be seen in person.
Yes.
Okay, with that being out of the way, we have small cell tower wireless facilities ordinance review, and that is in your packet of papers. So Steve, this goes back to our 5G discussions that we're pre-planning for.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Have you had any folks come into the town office looking to start construction?
We have not.
Okay, thank you.
And you do note that in these yellow ones, where it's highlighted is what we changed back in February. So it was a third review.
Steve, I think this covers everything that was discussed, doesn't it?
It does. I couldn't attend one of the work sessions that you talked about, but I did see Tom's comments that you come up with, our attorney's comments, and you did a very good job on it.
Well, I want to thank you, and I also want to thank Commission Member Graham for their efforts on this, because this is a subject that I'm not very well versed at, and I look to your direction on it. And in reviewing this at work today, it looks like we've covered everything that was discussed, and again, appreciate all your efforts on that.
I think one thing we were looking at to be proactive, and let's
Yeah.
be prepared. But
I think we lead other municipalities in what's being done, including Westminster.
we took information from other municipalities and we made it better.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think we did an outstanding, you folks did an outstanding job on this.
Bob, thank you again for your good work on this. Steve also. This is kind of one of those things that I guess gets under your fingernails and you just forget about it after a while. So thank you both very much for your hard work. If there's any discussion from any of the members? With that, okay, with none being said, I'll accept the motion to approve the ordinance for small cell tower. I'm sorry, can we find out if there's any comment, question, or concern from?
Well, Laurie is gonna text me, but I think came in.
Now, are we doing an approval or are we making a recommendation?
Recommendation, it should be a
to
recommendation.
the
You're right,
council?
Henry, thank you. Good to go? Okay. With no public comment, I will accept the motion for recommendation to the mayor and town council for the ordinance on small cell tower wireless facilities.
I make the motion to forward the ordinance to town council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion on the floor and it has been seconded to recommend approval of the small cell tower wireless facilities ordinance. Is there any discussion from the commission? Okay, with none being had, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimously approved. Unanimously, sorry. Phew. Okay, very good. Hang
Well,
on,
we
hang
have
on
a
one
citizen.
second. I know, you want to get home and watch the hockey game, me too. But we have one person who has signed in to speak to the commission. Is there anything else electronically that we need to address, Michelle or Steve? We're good. Okay. Mr. Stencil, we have you as addressing the commission. Please feel free to come up to the podium and address as needed.
Commission members, appreciate you hearing me and having me here. I've been able to watch the last several planning and zoning committee meetings, but there hasn't been any public statement, allowed or happening at those meetings. So I have been commenting at the city council meetings, but I'm not entirely sure that you guys watch those meetings. And I do appreciate how you said you wanted to get together with the city council to kind of discuss the different annexations and put that together. I think that's really appropriate and really good. To say that the four families of Seattle Slough Way were disappointed with the outcome of the recommendation vote is an understatement for many reasons. First, one of the members wanted to have some more time. That member ended up being the deciding yay vote. And it was upsetting that there wasn't any more discussion before he was asked to make a vote. The reason given was that there was a long work session and at the previous meeting, which there was after the adjournment of the regular planning and zoning committee meeting. The public wasn't able to watch that work session, so I watched all the way up to the adjournment and then it blacked out and I didn't get to see the work session on Patriots Overlook, which was very important to me. I did ask for committee notes. I did get the shortened version of the notes, but I do imagine there was some discussion that happened. Obviously, I do really wish I knew what happened at the public work session for Patriots Overlook. Second, since I've been watching a lot of your meetings, it's very confusing to me as a citizen that the Lippy annexation would not be recommended, but then the Patriots Overlook would be recommended. It really seems that all annexations should not be recommended right now unless there's a huge benefit to the city, and in both cases, there didn't seem to be very huge benefits to the city. It just didn't make sense. The sewage treatment issue is still a major issue for the city, which may end up leading to higher city taxes for all. The destruction of the forest area is an added immediate disadvantage, and one of you even stated that financially there's not a big benefit to the city coming in. So why would this one be annexed in and not the Lippy annexation? The added traffic from Powers Homes, Patriots Overlook annexation, and the Equine Meadows annexation is probably going to be pretty terrible for anyone who lives off Park Avenue. I will definitely not be looking forward to it. If there were positive differences, I wish they would have been discussed. One committee member who voted yay noted that it would help out with the trash and the snow removal, as it would not be two different sets of responsibilities. It wouldn't be city and county. This happens every week on my street and Burroham Court, and there's really no issue at all. It's a minor inconvenience. The only real things that I heard were more negatives and nothing positive coming from that annexation. Third, it's also somewhat disappointing that the email that I sent earlier wasn't addressed. I know that I wasn't able to speak at the Planning Commission Planning and Zoning Committee meetings. I had read it at the previous city council meeting. Michelle had mentioned it being sent to the city council and the Planning and Zoning Committee. Perhaps you all discussed it at the work session that I wasn't able to see. There were some session notes about them contacting us about joining the annexation of the 4 families on Seattle Slough Way, and that we didn't reply or said no, that we didn't want to do it. That is true, that none of us want to join the annexation, and while it does not create an enclave, it does create a pretty tight peninsula surrounding 2 of our houses on 3 sides. Really, my house is more on 3 sides, and then 2 sides on the other houses. Again, if you read my email, you probably already know, but it's disheartening to stand in my backyard with the Powers Homes people, and they would tell me that my house would be surrounded by 1-acre wooden county lots. It's still on their sign. That's on Park Avenue, large 1-acre wooden lots. And to find out that they're changing it all, and I have no real way to stop it, and no one's listening to my voice. Perhaps I can sue them. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know. But finally, as the 4 families of Seattle Slough watched the Lippy annexation vote, there were not any Lippy annexation people there representing them to give their opinion or even talk about, the annexation and what they wanted. It felt very odd and inappropriate to give Powers Homes representative, one of 4 who won that call, time to share and discuss his opinion right before the vote happened. How and why would he be given the final say before the vote, as he's easily biased towards wanting the annexation? Why weren't the Lippy representatives people able to do that? I wasn't able to express my opinion at that voting meeting, but the Powers people were. I think the 4 families of Seattle Slough thinks that the Powers people shouldn't even have been in that call. They could have been in the work session to answer questions, but having them at the vote wasn't needed. It certainly didn't feel appropriate. It didn't even feel really ethical with that vote. I'm disappointed. I'm confused. I plan to tell as many people as I know to hopefully work up time to talk to the city council, to come and talk at that public meeting and say that we don't think it's a good idea. And I do hope that people listen. I hope the city council members vote no to that annexation. I hope they make the right decision for the city. This annexation doesn't make any more appropriateness than the Lippy annexation. It doesn't feel any different. And I know there's another annexation that's on the way, and then there was even talk about another annexation tonight, which it seems like there's an awful lot going on. I do appreciate you letting me speak at this meeting. I do appreciate speaking the last couple city council meetings. I'll continue sharing my viewpoint while this annexation is being considered. I'll certainly answer any questions that any of you might have about me or the 4 families that I represent, or any of the things that I've noticed as I've watched your committee meetings over the last couple months. So I do appreciate your time. I do appreciate you hearing my thoughts. Thank you very much.
So I would like to address a couple points. I did watch the YouTube video of your presentation to the town council, and I have a couple.
Do you want me to stand here? Or?
Please.
Oh, yes, sir.
Mr. Stencil, when you mention anything of an ethics consideration, this council takes this commission, takes that very seriously. We dedicate our time, and we have over the past several years, as Mayor Warner said, to being above board, to doing the best we can with the ability we have within our due roles as commission members. So to question in any fashion that we do anything unethically, I think we are the opposite. And I'll defend every member of this commission that we are above board and we are more cautious because of our positions either as a citizen of the town or in an adjacent property to the town and how it impacts us. So I would like you to take that back to the 4 families, that we do not do anything without serious considerations and frequent consideration to the fact that we are going to violate any or even come close to an ethical standard violation for the town of Manchester.
I will tell you that your committee meeting has been run very, very well. I've really enjoyed watching the meetings. I've learned a ton. My only question was, I just don't know why the Patriots person was allowed to speak.
Well, I'm getting to that.
Thank
But
you.
I just want you to know,
I do appreciate.
and I'm going to speak for these commission members. Again, when you talk about ethics, you're talking about a person taking the time to make a decision that benefits them individually over the good and welfare of this town. And that is not what this commission does, nor do each one of these members consider. Again, I will repeat to you, we take that seriously, we take our oath seriously, and we go overboard to make sure that there is no ethical conundrum. And I will tell you, I am the one that you need to look at when it comes to ethics for this board, as not only the commission chair, but those homes are in my backyard. So when I sit and make a vote, yea or nay, I do that for the goodness of the town, and each one of these commission members make that vote for whether they, in their opinion, I can't change that. They take the facts into consideration, and they make a vote based on the facts in front of them. So I'll end there. Secondly, the Lippy folks did have a chance to comment at the end of that session. Mr. Hill chose not to. Mr. Pyatt chose not to. They left it to their development coordinator to make a plea or his final words to the commission. So that is incorrect. Okay, so that's.
I didn't know that.
Okay, well, again, I'm just straightening the record.
I appreciate it.
Sure. So now with that being said, I understand you not wanting development. You chose to buy those homes and those lots. You were looking for a certain lifestyle. I completely understand. I've been here for 54 years, and I'm 54. So I get it. I really get it, because I don't like it. But it doesn't matter what I think, it's what's right. And if these gentlemen want to come in and develop that based on the considerations, you saw the vote in public record, and that's the vote. Each commission member who voted had the ability to see the facts. They had the work session minutes. They had I would say, very long discussions, and we have discussed. And if you've seen some of our work sessions, Commissioner Graham and I have had discussed in detail this annexation at the Lippy property, Patriots Overlooks. We have several others that we know are on our plate, and we consider all this when we make our votes.
And I loved listening to the Lippy annexation. I didn't get to see the Patriots Overlook annexation.
Okay, well, I can't explain a technical fault from CMC or somewhere else. I'm sorry. I apologize for that, for them. But there's nothing in the minutes that Michelle produces that's away from what we discussed.
Sure.
So the vote, it was the vote. And those are those commission members' concepts, ideas, and feelings on that development, with Commissioner Graham and I individually affected by that development, but we voted because we looked at the facts in front of us. So I'm sorry you're disappointed, but I can tell you that, you know, there's a lot that goes into this, more so, and one of the problems is I wish we could all shut the door behind us when we moved to Manchester.
Sure.
My parents came here in 1954. I'm sure they wanted to shut the door behind them, but that's just not the way things are. So we have to try to do what's best for the town, what's legally responsible. So we hear you loud and clear.
I appreciate that.
But there are, we have to take other things into consideration. And again, our vote is a recommendation, yes or no, to the mayor and council, and we will let them be the final decider. And you will see a member from this commission at those public hearings supporting whatever our vote is or isn't to the council for them to make the ultimate decision.
I would tell you, I really appreciate the open communication and you talking back to me, being very honest. And I just want to make sure, because I haven't been able to speak at this committee meeting, I did want to make sure that I came and talked to you all directly. I wish that I'd been able to speak at the earlier meetings too, but I understand all the issues and the things that have been happening.
Well,
The city council was different. I could call in and
Sure.
email in.
Well, I would recommend to you, if you have a point of view on the commission, please, even if you have to contact Michelle or Steve a day early or the town a day early, please do so. We value public input into our decisions. So please make sure that you're represented in those. And again, I do apologize for whatever happened to cut you out of the work session. So,
I don't know.
I've said enough. Any other commission members want to speak? Mr. Graham?
Like I say, if the annexation is approved by the mayor and council, it has to come back to this board. Don't give up on the process. We do listen, we do take it into consideration. We also take the laws and regulations to which the town is governed into regulation. So, yeah, people are not always happy with things. Sometimes we need to make compromises, sometimes we need to weigh one good against another bad and come to a decision, but please don't give up on the process.
Yeah, well, I certainly didn't want to sound disrespectful. I apologize if I did. And perhaps maybe the word ethical, maybe inappropriate, might have been a better choice of word. Just because I didn't know that the Lippy people had a chance not to speak. And I've only been watching for, since May, all your meetings. So I don't know exactly how everything's run. But it just felt weird to me. So that's why it didn't seem right before the vote. I don't know. Maybe I think they should talk way before you guys talk, then the vote. I think that might be better in the future. But I do appreciate you all having time tonight. I appreciate the open, communication. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. And again, I echo Commissioner Graham's sentiments. Please don't give up on the process. There's many more to do. And the other thing I'll tell you is something we run into frequently. Sometimes citizens don't take the time to listen and get the bigger picture. And so they do come when it directly affects them. So you're not the first one to come before us with concerns, and we appreciate you coming forward. But they come forward at the end when they get this much of the little view as opposed to the bigger view of the town that we have. So we appreciate it, and please don't give up.
I've been watching a while now, so
Good.
I'm starting to get the hang of it.
Great. Thank you.
And as we talk, you have that opportunity for your voice to be heard at the next meeting. The public hearing will be at our next town council meeting, which as always is the second Tuesday of the month.
And I would also encourage you to bring the other citizens with you, the other group, the other three families, a representative of each family, as opposed to you being nothing wrong with being the point person, but I think the town and the council and the mayor would love to hear from everyone individually, or a representative of each household.
I mean, I think everybody would be willing to come. I just think with the whole,
Well,
how everything is, everybody's kind of been, I didn't know if that's a good thing or not. I mean, so I do appreciate it, but I mean, everybody's watching and.
To be honest, the more support you have, the better,
Yeah,
visually.
Yep, I got it.
very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, I'll take a motion. So Michelle, we are meeting October, what?
20th.
Whatever the third Tuesday is, sorry.
If the 13th
It's
is,
only been the same third Tuesday of every month since what?
well, the council
Ever?
meeting's the 13th, so it's got to be the 20th.
It is. So,
Yeah, this time I don't have anything.
okay. So, Mr. Burbank, I will be out of town on the 20th. So if we have a meeting, you will be leading the October 20th meeting, 7 p.m.
It'll be the 20th instead of the 13th?
No, the 13th is the, plant Main Street.
Is the council meeting.
Council.
And the public hearing.
So the 20th would be our regular meeting, should we have one, yes. The 20th.
20th of October. You got it.
20 October.
Yes, sir. If we have one.
Oh, don't worry, I won't let you forget.
Trick or treat.
Oh,
I would say mostly trick on that as opposed to treat. All right, very good. Thank you all for a good work session tonight.
I will make a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.